in the interest of time.
This meeting is being recorded.
So thank you everyone for joining. There is a lot going on these days in the movement for community-led development. I'm so happy that you all could be here. My name is John Coonrod. I'm the coordinator of the movement and at work for the Hunger Project. We have a very full agenda today, and that's a good thing because what we are doing I consider to be very important. I'm going to share a few slides by way of introduction, and then we will turn to our speakers, and we'll have a very robust breakout group at the end of the session. So let me share screen, share Chrome tab. Bing. Stupid share will not let me talk and share at the moment today. So we'll try this again. There we go. We'll just do it this way. Okay, now I can talk and show the slides. Hope you can see it. Today, as you probably saw, we are focusing on capacity strengthening, previously known as capacity development or capacity building. But given our commitment to people's dignity and agency, we call it capacity strengthening because people have capacity. That is the whole point of the movement. I'm going to give a brief introduction for the movement. This movement was launched at the United Nations in 2015, along with the Sustainable Development Goals, because the Sustainable Development Goals, in the words of the Pope at that event, are all well and good, but unless they restore this woman to control over her own life and destiny, they won't have made a difference. And her life, scratching out a living on marginalized land for her family, with probably no access to meaningful public resources, her fundamental human right to the voice and the decisions that affect her life, to equal access to all the other citizens of her country to public services, those rights are being denied. And this movement is committed to righting that wrong. So our commitment and our recognition is that development is local. And by local, we mean within walking distance, because that's how she gets around. Our 5 goals include voice and agency for women, youth, and all of the unheard voices in society. Adequate community finance. At least 20% of public resources should be in the hands of local communities. We're really excited about Kenya because Kenya has put that in its constitution. We hope everyone follows. Good local governance, by which we mean local elections, public forums, public mechanisms of social accountability. Quality public services, which are responsive to the people, and resilience. And because resilience is fundamentally a community attribute. As we've seen during COVID, it's community leaders who are always the first responders in any crisis. And they need the resources, the information, and the support to be effective leaders in their community for resilience at these challenging times. So we have about 70 plus international NGOs, and we have about 1,500 plus community-based organizations who make up national chapters. The national chapters you see shaded in green, and in the orange countries, we have people who are organizing chapters, but have not officially launched them yet. And maybe this year we'll shade in the rest of those countries. We shall see, but that'll be up to each of us to reach our friends in all those countries, because leadership is really needed for this issue. A little bit of news. We have a new updated website, which you will see, mcld.org, same address, new look. And we have a draft of our vision for 2022 and would love your input in it. but it really emerged from the experience of last year, seeing that consortiums like Right to Grow, which we'll hear from today, bring together all sorts of people to work together in the way that we've always envisioned in the movement for community-led development. So it seems like with the commitment from USAID, with commitment from other bilaterals, recognitions by UN agencies of the critical importance of community engagement, that this might be a turning point. This might be the year in which we can really mobilize large-scale consortia. And again, that's going to take leadership of each of us. The other thing that's just happened is that we've had our first ever publication in DevEx. For those of you who don't know, DevEx is the loudest voice in international development here in the US. And so Gunjan and I were very happy that they, based on our previous call, our consultation with USAID on their local capacity development policy, that got published. And if you haven't given us and USAID your inputs on this new local capacity development policy, you still have time. Monday is the deadline. With that, I'm going to turn to our main subject for today. And I'm pleased to introduce Meg Kinghorn. Meg Kinghorn is a consultant, a facilitator, and a brilliant writer that we've all recently discovered. She has written this piece, an enhanced organizational capacity framework, that she's going to present to us. And let's see if I will stop these slides, Meg, and then why don't you just tell me when you want your slides?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Hello. And so nice to be with you. I'm really looking forward to the conversation we're going to have and to listening to the other speakers and to engage in a conversation, which is my favorite topic, which is community capacity strengthening. So yeah, John, why don't you start the slides anytime? And I will say, in way of that introduction, I will say that first and foremost, I am proud to call myself a practitioner. I've been working in development for about 35 years, and most of that time has been in organizational capacity strengthening. It's just what I'm passionate about, and very much from a practitioner's perspective. So I was delighted to work with Momentum, and Momentum is a USAID funded suite of awards. There are 6 awards looking at enhancing maternal child health from various different perspectives. So I worked with a Momentum Knowledge Accelerator, which is the learning function, in order to do 2 phases on capacity strengthening. The first was on measurement. What are some ways to measure capacity and then see changes in capacity? And then the second piece was looking at updating and enhancing the organizational framework. We have a 3rd phase that's coming up. We're going to be starting next month, which I'm going to tell you about, which I think is perhaps the most exciting phase. Next slide. So I have been working in capacity assessment for probably about 20 years. And I find it to be really one of the most effective capacity strengthening interventions, to work with an organization, to help them know what they know, to help them articulate where they want to go. I have found just to be really exciting and really dynamic. If it's done well, I've also seen a lot of poor capacity assessment processes and tools. But so I have done capacity assessments, I've designed assessment tools, I've taught courses in capacity assessment. So I'm a true believer in capacity assessment. But lately, you know, we've all been, I think, raising some questions about capacity assessment processes that have become the norm. We hear a lot about assessment fatigue. Another assessment, another donor. Oh, it's time for your annual or biannual or monthly or weekly assessment, they've perhaps gotten a little out of control. They're also tend to be very directive. Like, do you have all these things? Does everybody have a job description? Do you do things these certain ways? Not everybody works the same way. They often look at opinion rather than evidence, which I think is really important for a certain level, kind of at that process level, but not necessarily for outcomes level. So there's a little bit like, how do we use evidence? And we've also seen lately, the biggest difference is there's a difference between capacity and performance. Do you have the capacity? Does everybody have the job description? Do you have the strategic plan? Do you have all the blah, blah, blah? Or are you using it? Are you effective and dynamic and making change in your community? And this is what we're interested in, the latter, right? Not the former. And we're not looking at that with our assessment tools. Also, environment has always been complex, and we're certainly recognizing that more and more. And so assessment tools tend to not be well suited to complexity or talk about resilience, which is another thing that organizations, NGOs have always needed to be resilient, right? You know about natural disasters, political disasters, economic disasters, transitions, funding gaps, you know all that. We're starting to recognize that and talk more seriously about resilience. And then, of course, looking at the underlying causes of gains. Why is there capacity? Why is it changing? So I was really delighted when Momentum contacted me and said, would you like to take a revised look at the capacity framework? And I was really excited. I wasn't available for the first phase, excuse me. So I reached out to Beryl Levenger, which I hope many of you know. She's really a luminary in capacity strengthening world. And I was so delighted that she was available. And we've been working together on these 3 phases. She led the first phase. I led this second phase on the paper, and then we're going to work together on the next phase. So next slide. Beryl and I have been around long enough that we've seen a lot of these terminologies and how they've changed from capacity building, which is very much reflective of the time when we were engineering, we were building roads and things, tools, measurements, very much reflective of the thinking of the time. Then we moved into capacity development. Well, there is capacity there. It needs to be nurtured and sustained, very much a human development paradigm. And you see all the stages of development, of developing, nascent, emerging, mature, so that there's the organizations, the national NGOs can be sustainable to implement donor programs. Now we're moving into capacity strengthening, which really looks take a more of a systems approach. That is about the system that needs to work together to be dynamic and working together. And that's what we need to focus on, not so much the donor programs, which is great. Very exciting to be in this capacity strengthening phase. However, what Beryl and I realized is that our assessment tools and our assessment frameworks are still very much in the capacity building. If you look at the framework that we tend to use, next slide, please, John, which is probably familiar to many of you, it is a blueprint, right? It's based on a Western corporation. These are everything you need to know to be. And so this is why we say, oh, we're going to assist organizations. What we're really doing is we're saying, do they fit the blueprint? Now, there's no evidence that this framework actually strengthens performance. Even for corporations, much less national NGOs, right, or local NGOs. So it's not suited for that. It also is not suited to resilience and to dynamic environments. Some of you might be familiar with some of the common tools. They're the organizational capacity assessments, or an OCA, of which there are many tools, many frameworks. And those tend to be at the beginning, middle, and maybe end. And then, of course, a new tool that's come online, developed by PAC, is the Organizational Performance Index, or the OPI, which is a great tool. It's looking at performance, it's looking at effectiveness, efficiency, relevance, and sustainability, but really looking at high-level outcomes. Is the organizational able to really sustain and work independently in its environment? Maybe it's not really suited to a different theory of change, but because it has the word performance in it, it's being used in every context. And we question that. Is that the right tool? Because there is no one right tool for everything. So is the OPI, it's good in some cases, is it good for everyone? We're not really sure. So we were interested in forming a framework that really kind of hit between the two, looked at performance, but really thought about what does what I kept calling capacity in motion look like? What does it look like if we know an organization has a really good human resources, or can deliver, or is has social credibility? What do we know? What do we see? What can we see? And so that was the tack that we took. Next slide, please. We looked at many frameworks and compared them all, and we have that in the paper, contrasted them, and put together this what we call 5 core capabilities for organizational resilience and sustainability. This is based, we compared a lot of different frameworks. The one that we relied on as kind of the base to adapt from is from ECDPM, European Center for Development Policy Management, the 5 Cs framework. And so we kind of adapted other things to it. So it has 5 core capabilities and 1 cross-cutting theme. So the first is self-determination. It's that ownership. It's that this is our organization, this is our mission. We have fire in the belly. We are developing on that. We are not implementers of other people's programs. It is us. They're funding us. That motivation, that commitment, which I always say is the difference between a dynamic organization and a bureaucracy. So, and a lot of times capacity development programs tend to snuff out this, and this is so important. Produce sustainable results. That is often the focus of capacity assessment and capacity frameworks. That's to add value. The third is to align systems for agility. This is also usually the second half of the organizational framework, which is the internal structures, the HR, finances, M&E, things like that. Can you align your systems so that they work together to agilely support the results that you are sustaining and to cope with instability, growth, and change? The fourth one, so important, is to learn and adapt, to innovate, to change. And then the last one is to attract and sustain support. This is social capital. It attracts then financial capital. It's be relevant. And this is a big part, of course, of resilience, right? Is to then be able to have the support of others within the community and to have that incoming as well. Through that is the cross-cutting theme of resilience, which looks at, is there diversity, redundancy, connectivity, experimentation, and participation built into the systems? Let's go down 2 slides, John, or 3 slides. Yeah, just to give you an example, we have, you'll get this presentation, and this is from the paper, and it breaks down each one of these core capabilities. But I wanted to just give you an example of the aligned systems for agility, because we were really trying to focus on what are those key behaviors? What are the dashboard of behaviors? We tried to keep it to 5. We think this framework should be adapted, but we hope it's not added to and grown. We think keep it to what are those 5 core capabilities, capacities. We don't need to know everything about job descriptions, but we do need to know Are they building a team that includes members from the community? Is the team cross-functional so that when there is illness or transition, the work can continue? Is there financial resources that can cover needs and to be able to shift them, to manage finances, financial autonomy and financial resilience? So those are kind of what we believe is the heart of a lot of the admin systems. Now, of course, monitoring and evaluation is in the results section, the one before. So that to give you an example, just to drop in and look at that, to really keep them, really focused on what are those key pieces that drive. So down to the last slide, John.
How will I know the last slide?
Okay, the next one. Yep, great.
I should have told it. It says thank you on it. It must be the last one.
So what I'm interested in hearing from you is of course your reaction to this. This has been put out, but we have a very exciting next stage, and that this paper was a framework. It was not a tool, it was a framework. But they've asked us to develop a tool, one that is evidence-based, systems-oriented, and complexity-aware. And we're really excited about that, to try to think out of the box about not only tools, but processes. How can it be something that is agile, short, maybe using processes like outcome harvesting or human-centered design, or really to think out of the box for new processes. And so I would like to hear from you, either here or maybe small group, or continue the conversation. What do you think of the framework? How could it add value to your work? How might you use it? And then also, I would like to hear, as we start out this third phase, what might a useful tool and process look like to monitor capacity performance and changes and understand the reasons why? For example, if it's going to be evidence-based, there's no one evidence that's global for something. Perhaps you provide the evidence that says we're at level 3, and here's the evidence that we're at level 3, and that can be perhaps validated by others. So to turn around some of these things that we have not questioned for so long, who provides the evidence? Where does it come from? How is it validated? So these are the things that we are starting to play with. I've gone over time. I'm very excited about this. I hope you are too, and I will stop there and look forward to the conversation. Thank you all.
That's wonderful, Meg. Thank you very much. And I think it will flow, seeing from all the nodding of Jovana, I think it'll flow very well into the conversation we're going to have next, which will look at some very practical applications of that are, I think, very simpatico with this process. And that's, the Hunger Project and some other groups that are on this call are part of a Dutch-funded consortium called Right to Grow. And we're really delighted to have their two of the 3 people we thought would be with us today from their capacity strengthening team, Jovana and Usman. And I think what we'll just do is go right into your presentation, Jovana. And and then afterwards, we'll be able to have breakout groups. And the way we're going to do the breakout groups is there will be a Meg group and a Jovana group and an Usman group speaking French. And then since Jan couldn't be here, I will take the 4th group, and you can pick which one you go to. So with that, let me hand it over to you, Jovana.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you, Meg, for a wonderful presentation. I really loved it, especially the questions you put in the end. And I think that many questions that we also want to propose as a food for thought overlap. So it's good that we are thinking along the same lines. So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Once again, from my side, my name is Jovana Dodos. I work as a Right to Grow Partnership Coordinator for ACF International. And I'm also a global capacity development lead for our Right to Grow consortium. I'm here together with my colleague Usman, who comes from our local partner organization, that is Youth Association, working primarily on democracy issues in Mali. Unfortunately, our third colleague from Save the Children could not be here with us. So I thought it would be a good idea to show you a very short animated video prepared by our global communications team, just to give you a hint what Right to Grow is, who we are, and what we do. So let me try to share my screen. I guess I should share sound as well, and you will let me know if you can see the video. Is it okay?
Yes.
That was a short introduction to Right to Grow. I hope you could imagine what we will do over the next 5 years. So we are quite a big consortium working in 6 program countries with over 20 local civil society organizations trying to promote exactly what we're talking about here. Locally led solutions. Let's do it locally, and locally means walking distance. I really love that. I love that one. So my presentation is going to focus on mutual capacity development approach that we have within Right to Grow. And for mutual capacity development, in our case, we set 2 objectives. So really wanted to have technical capacity of our consortium partners. So technical know-how, technical knowledge and skills enhanced or strengthened so we can jointly achieve Right to Grow program objectives and development outcomes. And then the second objective that we set for us is to ensure a sustainable change and continuation of impact beyond the scope of our program. And what is the most important and the big issue for us at the moment is basically how to ensure organizational sustainability of our local civil society partners themselves. I will talk a little bit about our vision of capacity strengthening. I think that in our case, we are using the 2 terms capacity development and capacity strengthening interchangeably. And it is only now today that I learned actually the difference between different terms. So thank you, Meg, for your presentation once again. So within Right to Grow, we are actually putting accent on mutual. For us, mutual is the key. So mutual capacity strengthening. With this, we mean that each partner, each organization that works with us on Right to Grow program implementation brings certain strengths and basically we all, as a consortium, have the opportunity to learn from each other. We accept, acknowledge, and promote as much as possible the fact that capacity strengthening needs can be different. They can be different between our partners, they can be different between our program countries. But what is the most important in our case is that capacity strengthening agendas that we are trying to implement should be tailored to the needs. And what we have been doing for the past year or so was actually trying to assess what those needs are and allowing our country partners and supporting them in identifying priorities. So identifying capacity strengthening priorities by themselves. So as I mentioned, we make a distinction between the technical capacity strengthening that is relevant for achieving program objectives and long-term organizational needs and organizational strengthening, because we really want to have our local civil society partners to become a sustainable advocates, in our case, of integrated water, sanitation, hygiene, wash, and nutrition services even after our program finishes. Interestingly, in our case, we also make a difference or see the difference between capacity strengthening and learning, while at the same time we acknowledge that these two thematic areas are closely interlinked and require strong collaboration. So in Right to Grow, we see mutual capacity development as formal learning, such as training, coaching, focusing on harder technical skills or technical know-how on different topics that are relevant for our program, such as nutrition, such as water, sanitation and hygiene, such as policy analysis, advocacy, budget monitoring, expenditure tracking, communication skills, engagement with different stakeholders, etc., etc. On the other hand, we see learning as more informal ways of increasing your knowledge. So exchanging among program countries, among different consortium partners, focusing more on software skills, such as learning about different processes, learning about the ways we are working with each other. At this moment, I would like to hand over the floor to my colleague Usman, who will talk about the process. So where are we in the process? And he will also present to you what is our action plan for this 2022, for this year. And then I'm going to take over the part that Jan should have presented with some lessons learned and food for thought questions. Usman, are you with us?
Okay, morning everybody. I will try to speak in English. My English is not clear, so sorry.
It's great, Usman. It's good.
Okay, so where are we in the process? Right now, we begin with the capacity learning assessment with more than 20 CSO in six countries. And now we have the report, the draft report of this assessment, and we are doing the prioritization workshop with with each country. We did already 6 program prioritization workshop with them, and to identify the priorities between more than I can say 40 needs in capacity development. So we have to choose some action for this year. And the process was, the quantitative component was that we make the assessment. They have to fill a questionnaire, about their capacity, and the qualitative step is the workshop. And in this workshop, we make more discussion about their need to choose. It is not just the number, but the argument that they give you to choose these priorities. And we will finish with the results of the country-specific needs. And we plan to make some activities in this year. If you can go to the second slide. Next slide, yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is our plan for this year. We have to make a mapping of capacity development resource and tool. We have many CSO and the international NGO like ICF and NGO projects. So we have many resources. So we have to to be sure that you have only one area where you can get all of this tool and resource. So we have to make this mapping with some skills expertise list for the global program. And if Anger project need an expertise in WASH, they know where to get this person. And if AGICAD is local organization, want some expertise, can go to this platform and to check. And we have to matching expertise provider with the consortium and with the right to grow expert. So we have some documentation space for the people experts, and we have some documentation and other resource mapping. And after these activities, we need to two global events about organizational development capacities. So we have to do these two global events. It can be about the priorities of local CSO. If they think that they need some training about how to make a communication plan, how to make a advocacy plan. So we will choose these two events, and it will be an event with all of the countries, 6 countries and partners. So they will be trained about this topic. And the development and scale up of RadGrow e-learning platform. Now, this activities is to use the innovation and the new technology to make sure that people have all time access to the training, and then can ask what they want, and they can choose the module that they want to follow. So this is a e-learning planning platform, and the development is in progress. And we think that in April 2022, we will deliver this platform. And the kickoff of scholarship for our vision of mutual capacity, we think that every organization and people have something to share. So we plan to give some scholarship to people if they want to participate to the international events, have some internship in other partners countries. Yeah, thank you so much to learn about what they did in their countries. And yeah, this scholarship will be available for 2 months. So the local CSU and other, they can try to get this scholarship. And the last one is the research and innovation, locally led research. So we have to select 2 countries, and we will fund some university or some organization which work about our topic to make some research, but it is not specifically scientific research. It will be the research for innovation. So we have to encourage the people to get this fund to just make some research about the different topic. I'm sorry for my English. Thank you so much.
I think your English was very good, Usman. Don't be so shy. Thank you very much for this presentation. I hope we managed to give a general idea what we will do in the area of capacity strengthening this year. What I would like to focus this presentation on is basically what we learned so far. And when we discussed with our colleague Jan, we actually came up with the 3 let's say takeaway messages from these capacity assessments that we conducted in all 6 program countries. So we really try to go beyond the typical capacity assessment that is definitely not good and not effective way of trying to identify what the needs are. So we try to combine this quantitative component with qualitative component, trying to have as much as possible open conversation without the local partners. So what we learned so far is that capacity strengthening is sometimes perceived as a way to educate the community instead of an opportunity to improve yourself in working better with communities. So we have some questions here, food for thought. We have no answers. Hopefully we might get some answers during our breakout room discussions. So what language can we use that is clearer in this case or less top down? while I see that we are searching for the word whether we should use building, development, or strengthening, we are also asking ourselves in Right to Grow whether the word mutual is enough. Do we actually show what we want to show by using the word mutual? What are the alternatives out there for the word capacity? So there is always this terminology problem that we are trying to resolve in order to make the work we do as clear as possible. So do you have any alternatives for the word capacity? Also, what I can say, and I think this is not a surprise, I guess this is experience that you can actually have in many different capacity assessment processes. For us in Right to Grow, it was definitely easier to map capacities, needs, strengths, and weaknesses that are related to technical knowledge and skills than organizational capacities. No matter how hard we tried, we actually did not manage to have as open conversation as we initially wanted about organizational capacities. So we are asking ourselves, what role do power relations play in this setup? How can we actually have an open conversation about organizational strengths and weaknesses? And what does it actually tell us about the way we partner and work together in international alliances? Because we need to accept that there are some power imbalances between big international NGOs and local civil society organizations that form this consortium. And last but not the least, for us, it was a lesson learned that assessment survey, so the first part of the assessment process, that was basically a questionnaire, is a nice conversation starter, but actual needs and priorities might be different than what we actually get as survey outcomes. So the challenge remains how to ensure that basically priorities set by civil society program managers or those who completed the questionnaires really reflect the needs of their colleagues who engage more directly in their community. So I would like to stop here and give back the floor to John. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I love that statement that, and I guess you can stop sharing the screen. I love the statement. It's not about educating the community. It's about improving ourselves in our partnership with the community, in our authentic solidarity with people's aspirations and their strengths. So thank you, Meg and Jovana and Usman. I feel like this is my dream come true. I had a strong feeling that 2022 was going to be a breakthrough year for the movement and for our abilities to unleash the power and creativity of communities. What I would like us to do is to actually go right into our breakout groups, because I think it'll be the richest discussions will be in those breakout groups. And Sarah, I think we can have 25 minutes. And here are the two areas that you may want to discuss, but you may want to discuss all kinds of things. One is, what areas would you like to see capacity strengthened in? You know, what are your needs and priorities? And also, what can you share? What resources do you know or have access to? You know, on our website, mcld.org, we had a wonderful intern who organized something like 80 different training manuals in 10 different subjects. But I think, and hearing about this new e-learning platform from Right to Grow is very, very exciting. And I know other people have wonderful tools and discussion outlines and kinds of things, because, you know, we are a bunch of people who are probably very strong in facilitating conversations, but having sort of a proven and tried outline and flow documents, like I always want that when I'm facilitating any kind of conversation. So we're going to have 4 breakout groups. As I mentioned before, the Meg group, the Jovana group, the Usman group, where people can speak French, and the Jan group, which is now my group, the John Coonrod group. And you will a little thing will pop up and you can pick which group you want to go to. And then in 25 minutes, we'll all come back together and we will have some time to share a key observation, insight, takeaway from each of those groups. Please appoint someone to take notes. If you could have in your group someone to take notes who can send me those notes afterwards, and then we'll be able to share everything with the recording. Giovanna, if you could send me your slides, we'll put all of that up on our website right after this call. So, Sarah, let us loose.
Okay, the rooms are open, so you might have to go just to the bottom of your screen where it says breakout room and then pick one.
And Sarah, you'll put me in mine? Or do I pick it, or how do I get there?
I could put you in your, yeah.
Okay, great.
Just let me know if you need help getting to a room. If you have a preference, I can put you automatically in one.
Yes. Sir, I don't know whether I'm already in breakout group or not. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jude. Jude, do
Yeah,
you have a
because-
preference what speaker to go to?
Yeah. Yes, but I'm supposed to go to English group, but I have not joined the breakout group yet.
Okay, I'll send you to a group.
Please send me to Solomon. This is Solomon Kibona. To an English
Hi, Solomon.
group. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, good to see you. I'll send you to a group.
And also Isaac to an English group.
Sure, Isaac.
Thanks.
Of course.
Jared here, also to English group. Thank you.
Okay, no worries.
Febi Chombe, here you can also send me to an English group, please.
Okay, Feby. Dr. Rebecca, can I send you to a group?
Yes, I signed to join group, but
Okay. I'll go John's group.
Can you send me to Giovanna?
Yes, of course.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Hello.
I'm Sandra.
Hi, Nwali.
Sandra
Oh,
Oluchukwu.
hi, Sandra.
Okay, I would like to join. Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you.
Okay, good evening.
I can hear you.
Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Wonderful. So some people fell off, some are coming back. Okay, how are we doing? 55 of us are back. That's probably all who are coming back. I know some people always have to leave a little bit early. So we're going to have some quick reports from the 4 groups, and then we have some announcements to make of upcoming events and where your support and leadership is, as always, greatly needed. Let me first turn to group 1, Meg's group. Who from Meg's group can report like a 1 minute report back.
Okay, I'll try and keep it brief. We did actually cover quite a lot. So we talked about a problem of a disconnect between having this ideal goal and this ideal like framework, and how to kind of change the way that organizations function at this time and how to move towards it. So another problem connected to that was raised was about having quite structured assessment timelines, like point to point to point. And the group thought that introducing a more process tracing way of doing this, having a kind of parallel constant assessment that was, again, community-led, locally owned, locally communicated way was a way of kind of making sure that there was a continuous change as opposed to having to make these quite large restructures at certain points. Also, there was a very important thing that I thought, which was that organizations often share knowledge informally because they're a little bit hesitant to share like non-technical information in a formal sense. And there's a need to really endorse new ways of doing things and new structures from organizations that have more power. Yeah, more largely. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, group 2, that would be Ivana's group.
That'll be me, John. I'm hoping similarly we had a really rich discussion, and I'm hoping I'm going to do my job well here, Giovanna and the rest. So just add if I miss anything. There was a discussion around developing trust between donors and local CSOs, and that discussion came out of the need for funding. So local CSOs need funding to do the work they do. They don't necessarily get access to such funding because there's not a well-established connection of trust between donors.
Right.
And then there were comments around, okay, to establish such trust, capacity strengthening is needed of local groups so that they are able to evidence the work they do more visually and visible, and through that strengthen the trust. But it's sort of a, it's a egg chicken situation, because for them to strengthen their capacity, they need funds to do so. And so, so we had another discussion around, the restrictions around funding going directly to CSOs, and maybe there needs to be some capacity strengthening around that. So how do we help local CSOs to have the capacity to access funding? But at the same time, maybe work also needs to be done with donors to adjust their funding requirements. Because why is it always that local CSOs have to adjust to those who hold the money, right? There can be
exactly, rather than
give on both sides. Yeah.
We have an event coming up I'll introduce in just a moment for exactly addressing that, transform the donor point. Yeah. Okay. Who from Usman's group?
Yes, I'm gonna try with some help from Usman.
Thanks, Manu.
Yeah, no worries. So first we talked about what we understand ourselves about what capacity strengthening is, and we mostly agree on that it's about complementarity and about mutualization, so that there's someone who can teach something, share some knowledge, and someone who is learning, but it's about combining this and creating a synergy to then build forward on this, and also, of course, really considering also the local needs and the local vision regarding this issue. And secondly, we looked at how then, of course, you arrive at capacity strengthening. And for this, I'm gonna refer to my colleague Usman.
Okay. Merci beaucoup. Donc, par rapport à comment y arriver, les discussions ont porté surtout sur 2 niveaux, que ce soit d'abord un transfert des connaissances, ok, voilà, donc que les savoir-faire soient transmis aux organisations locales pour qu'elles n'aient pas toujours à vouloir apprendre toujours les mêmes choses avec les organisations internationales qui sont à côté, parce que ce sont les organisations locales qui sont permanentes. Les organisations internationales, très souvent, viennent pour des programmes et après, ils ne sont plus dans ces localités. Donc, il faut faire un transfert de connaissances. La deuxième chose, c'est le transfert de pouvoir. Il faut aussi transférer le pouvoir. Voilà. Donc, par
Shift the
pouvoir,
power.
right. Donc, il faut vraiment transférer le pouvoir en matière de ressources, aussi de connaissances, toujours des capacités à pouvoir répondre aux besoins à ces organisations locales. Donc, il doit y avoir un grand plaidoyer au niveau des grands bailleurs, comme Affaires mondiales Canada est un exemple, ou les autres grands bailleurs, pour que les ressources n'aient pas plusieurs trajectoires, puisque à chaque trajectoire, ça dépend. Pour qu'il y ait un transfert plus direct et que les communautés puissent bénéficier des plus grandes ressources. Et il y a eu deux citations, et que le premier est que ceux qui travaillent dans les organisations internationales doivent s'attendre toujours à être au chômage, parce qu'il faut que ce soit les organisations locales qui travaillent au niveau local. Et l'autre chose est que c'est aussi une citation qui dit que mieux vaut apprendre quelqu'un à pêcher que de lui donner du poisson chaque fois. Donc, il faut vraiment apprendre aux organisations locales à pêcher et à être de bons pêcheurs. Merci.
Yeah, merci. Okay, we're not going to take time to translate all of that here, but we can in the notes that you'll get sent out on the website afterwards. Okay, Steve, do you want to, you took the notes, can you give us a quick readout from our group?
Sure, John. So in our group, members highlighted a few areas that they think they need capacity strengthening around. And that includes, areas around advocacy, youth and women skill development, ICT, organization sustainability. And it was also good to learn, very interesting to learn about how members are using their training, other people enhancing their capacity around various areas. For example, in Nigeria, we had a representative there talking about how she's helping to reintegrate former Boko Haram members into the community and working with them to become responsible citizens. And in Kenya, we had Wema Toyua, who's a journalist, and how she uses her space to build capacity of needy kids from informal settlements to be able to learn, for instance, how to advance their passion in journalism by learning how to use cameras and things like that. Yeah, so it was a very, very interesting discussion. Over to you, John.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, as I mentioned, we'll be, as always, posting the recording, the notes, the slides, everything on the website. Should be there by end of today, I would think. And then we'll be sending out a newsletter to everyone. I want to make a few announcements. Gunjan, are you there to announce the workshop on COVID and measurement?
Sure. Yes. So continuing with the Adapting Community-Led Development Programming to COVID-19 and Beyond series that we have, next month we are organizing a special workshop on community-led monitoring. And the idea is that, how do we take monitoring and evaluation closer to the communities, and such that it is actually true to the principles of community-led development. That's happening on the 16th of February. We'll be circulating a link for it. Please register for it because you have to register prior, and we will have a limited number of seats for the session to ensure that everybody can actually fully participate and benefit from it. If there is a need, we will do a second workshop. But for now, it's the 16th of February, and we'll circulate the details soon this week for everyone.
Wonderful. And then I'm going to share. So as you know, if you've been on our previous calls, that we have a couple of side events coming up around big UN global advocacy moments. The first is the Commission for Social Development, and its theme is inclusive and resilient recovery from COVID-19. Now, this is where we need to transform the donors. So we have designed an amazing call. You can see the speakers on our website representing all the different aspects of money for communities, the whole ecosystem from bilateral donors to local taxation and devolution of resources and proper local administration, community philanthropy. We've got some really great people on that panel. So if you know anybody who's a donor, get them to that session and be there yourself to accompany them in their journey of transformation. The second is going to be in March. This one I'm also very excited about. When we were on our CLD call on environment, people made the point that, look, Greta Thunberg is an amazing, wonderful person, but the Global South has 1 million Gretas, girls and young women who are amazing spokespeople. You know them, the world doesn't. So this event at the Commission on the Status of Women, we have an event on the 23rd of March. And if you know a young Greta from the Global South who should be heard by the UN system, get her name to me and we will, because we've already got some commitments of these young Gretas, and we want to include them. And if they have a decent connection, or if they don't, we'll videotape them. But we want those voices heard. So someone raised their hand. Giovanna, did you have something you want to add?
No, I just applaud on your statement that there are many Gretas in Global South. So I really like that one.
Yes, I think somebody said there were at least 1 million. So this is amplify the voices of girls who are the champions for the future of our planet. Okay, that is it. We're 4 minutes early. So please, as we are, Gunjan, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Sorry, John, since we had a couple of minutes, I wanted to, we have Hassan Ghani here from the Stopping as Success project, and they actually have an opportunity for accompaniment support for local organizations, I believe. So if we have a minute, I would love to just invite her to flag that.
Great, please. Go ahead. Just unmute, and I have a call in a few minutes with Grace, actually, so it's perfect timing.
Great, thank you. Hassan Ghani, are you here?
I don't see her.
Oh, she was just here. She just messaged me. Okay, sorry. We'll post the details then, but the Stopping as Success project basically looks at sustainable transitions in development, and they have an opportunity where local organizations can work with them. They're looking for a few local partners where they will provide strategic accompaniment support throughout that process. So if anybody is interested, we can circulate their website and details about it. But here is a link, I think, to it. So that's it. Thank you, John.
Okay, so just remember, you'll get an email with all the reminders and all the opportunities, because we need your leadership to seize the opportunity of this breakthrough year for community-led development and really have it become the way that development is done. So thank you all for joining. You can unmute and say goodbye to everyone as we close the call. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, Mother Rebecca, bye-bye. Hi, Jean.
How are you?
I'm all right. And you?
Yeah, bye, Mr.
Fine, thank you.
Rebecca, can
Bye.
you call me?